Today we look at Noah Presgrove and do a map analysis, a detailed one, marking out the points, the markers, some of the key timestamps leading up to the death of Noah and when he was found, and including some key events, some contradictory points made along the way too by either the party goers or the odd other individual out there, such as what's been mentioned online. Welcome to those that are currently here in this live premiere. Yes, this is a live premiere, but I also did a video earlier on, standard format. For those watching right now, share your thoughts, opinions in the live chat box. And if you haven't already, when you do get time after watching this live premiere, be sure to catch up on my earlier video that I did, because it's just as important, and there has been a news update regarding a suspicious finding regarding the home owner or one of the home owners of the party house. They had a few things to say, and when you read through it, it does make you think, digging themselves into a bit of a hole, maybe like how the other person has in the background too. Be sure to catch up on that video that I covered earlier on today. If you want to find it, don't worry. Top right corner of the screen where the eye symbol is, if you click on that, you'll be able to find it there, okay? In general, whilst we focus right now on the map analysis, we can also look at some kind of timeline too. I believe it's a timeline leading up to the party where it all started. And then we can move on to the timeline and the map analysis of what happened post-party and when that shocking news came about. Okay, that's the order of how we're going to do it today. At any point you got questions, additional points, leave your thoughts under this video in the comment section, and you'll also find a pinned comment by me with the link to the video earlier on and some additional links if you want to support this channel. Without further ado, let's get straight into this case. Here we are, as you can see on screen. The origins of where this came about, well, first of all, was a screenshot from, I believe, the Facebook page known as Noah Presgrove's Army. And then people have posted, such as the administrator, one of the authorities on YouTube in that specific group. I think it's a public page in case you wanted to check yourself on Facebook. Screenshotted, reposted onto Reddit. And that's where I saw this. Now, this appears to be a timeline. It might be hard to read, don't worry. I will zoom in so we can go through it bit by bit. This might introduce people, it might re-jog people's memories, or if you've never seen it before and this is your first time, it might fill in the blank spots along the way. This was posted by Justin Roy 25 minutes ago at the time of when the screenshot was taken from Facebook. It reads, "This is only gathered from different stories of party goers, podcast and news." So it's a big collection of information and maybe witness reports all piled together. Does that mean to say it's 100% accurate? Not exactly. There has been talks in the background that information and stories have switched and changed. Some people are saying this, other people are saying that, such as ones at the party, which obviously isn't good. But let's just read what's been presented. Noah Alexander Nichols Presgrove. Right. So basically Noah Presgrove. Full name. On Saturday, September 2nd, 2023, Noah attends a party. He drives his own vehicle. Noah allegedly walked in on someone having oral. Okay, that's one way to start it. There is a heated argument with Noah and JN. JN means Jack Newton, the best friend of Noah. That results in pushing and slapping over CC. I think CC is the female something Coombs, if that's correct. And Noah getting fish hooked. Noah got written on by several women with permanent marker. Noah returns home in his own vehicle. So that all occurred on Saturday, September 2nd, 2023. Noah attended the party, but also safely left the party, then returned back the following day. When it talks about women writing on him with permanent marker, we saw that in the house party footage. Now, the actual party footage wasn't dated like Saturday, September 2nd. It was like a compilation of everything that went down there. So that kind of clears it up here as to on what day it occurred on. Saturday, September 2nd, Noah, mainly okay. Walking in on someone having oral, that's kind of random. I mean, I guess things like that happen. But the talk about a heated argument between Noah and JN that results in pushing and slapping, that might correlate to what was being talked about recently on my channel, where a key person who's learnt about the case for some time now and reached out to the family of Noah Presgrove, if I'm correct in saying, had stated that supposedly Noah was having arguments with his best friend or vice versa over a girlfriend situation. Supposedly Jack Newton's girlfriend was seen talking to Noah, and possibly Jack Newton got jealous, possibly, hence the arguments. Did that transpire into the next day and the next day, and then the outcome of Noah? That might be a bit of a stretch at this moment, but you never know. If you think of jealousy and you pair it with misunderstanding and pair that with fueled by alcohol and drunk and fueled by a grudge building, it can be a recipe for disaster. But considering that this argument took place on Saturday, by the time of Monday, when he was found, because that would have been, wait, hold on. No, not Monday, Sunday. Yeah, Monday, September 4th, when he was found dead, there was a few days for things to cool down if there was any heated arguments days before. So take that into consideration. Let's move on to the next key time frame. On Sunday, September 3rd, 2023, around 2:30 p.m, Jack Newton starts calling and texting Noah and inviting him back out to the 3-day party. Noah agrees to go for a little while, but then wanted to come home. Right, so things being patched up, the argument, the heat has cooled down, and it's now like, hey, come back, have fun, and it's okay, supposedly. It's interesting how to call it a 3-day party when I was looking at one of those official articles, it was labelled as a 4-day party. Weird. Anyway, so still following on from Sunday, September 3rd, at 7 p.m, GJ, whoever that is, ML, CJ, and JH pick up Noah and take him to the party. That ties in line with what we heard about fast forward onwards when Noah was seen leaving the party without his vehicle because he never took it with him. Because on Sunday, September 3rd, he got a lift. He got a ride to the place. That makes sense there. 30 minutes later, approximately, midnight, dancing, drinking, having fun. And I guess that could be seen in the house footage, what we saw. Several videos exist of drinking, dancing, and horseplay during this time. Yeah, we saw that. Between the hours of 10 p.m. and midnight, Noah allegedly got into a huge argument with Jack Newton again, because he was allegedly sleeping with FD. In addition, during that same time frame, allegedly, Noah started to flirt with CC, which made Jack Newton mad, and an argument with a few slaps ensued. Right, I don't know if it'll move on to the next slide, and I'll just read the lower part out in case it misses it out. At midnight, or past midnight, Noah wrecked the SXS ATV. A few of the guys got mad, per the boys from Texas. Rumour. What? So it's a rumour that the boys got mad at Noah, or it's a rumour that the whole event actually happened, crashing it, wrecking it, flipping over. That we can apply to the maps shortly, so take that into consideration. But the fact that there was two lots of arguments. The first argument with Noah and his best friend Jack Newton occurred, was it on Saturday, September 2nd? Had an argument, Noah left. Then Sunday, September 3rd, Jack Newton calls him back to the party, so he comes back. And then later on into the night, that's when things kick off once again with the same people. Interesting. I did see the odd comment by the odd viewer on my channel highlighting the possibility that with the midnight crash of the SXS ATV, that Noah making it back to the house, taken to the shower by some females, cleaned, I'm assuming he cleaned himself, and then wanting to sleep in one of the girls' beds. Was that with a girl, or just sleep in the bed by himself? What the odd viewer on my channel was highlighting was possibly that Noah committed some kind of sexual assault or sexual harassment upon one of the girls at the parties. Now, I don't know if that's from a feminist standpoint and an agenda, I'm not too sure. But do we have enough proof of an event like that actually happening in that way? No. And as I clearly said and outlined, if you replaced Noah Presgrove being taken to the showers by a group of people, if you reversed the roles and it was a female being taken to the baths, taken to the showers by a group of guys, there's a fair chance that there could be a claim of false claims of sexual harassment or sexual assault being made. You know how it is nowadays. You hear about a lot of false, fake rape allegations, whether that be with celebrities, YouTubers, or just the general public. It can destroy men. It can destroy the careers, the credibility, etc. It can lead to males committing suicide. That's how manipulative certain females can be. Now, whilst that doesn't quite link here, if there is an agenda against Noah, saying that he was flirting or sleeping or wanted to sleep with one of the females, with consent or not, slightly forced, is that what led to the death of Noah? A revenge killing by whom? Could it be Jack Newton, who felt threatened and jealous by the presence of Noah, who was talking to his girlfriend? Is that a possibility? Is there some crossed wires? One thing that doesn't help when it comes to flirting and messing about, fumbling and tumbling about, is when they're drunk. They're not quite thinking straight, not quite thinking clearly. They may regret their decisions later once they've sobered up, but by the time then, Noah, if anything did happen before that, Noah didn't have time to wake up properly because his life was taken away too soon, literally, in many ways. But nevertheless, I just wanted to read that out to you. Let me know your thoughts there. If anything does not quite add up, or if you've heard it differently, you're welcome to leave comments down below. Now, let's move on to the next page. Zoom in once again. It says a few partygoers, so this is still to do with Sunday, midnight. A few partygoers here, Jack Newton and Noah arguing about girls again, and several partygoers start to leave as they think something may happen. Then settle down. But Noah did start asking for a ride home. Yeah, well, he would need one, wouldn't he? Because it's past midnight, and if he wants to make it back home, he's not going to be walking in the dark, is he? If he was walking in the dark, he'd be walking down a long highway road, which would be very dangerous and obviously vulnerable as well by yourself. You look back at Riley Strain, he was walking back by himself in Tennessee. right? Key town, key area. Was it Tennessee? Yeah, I think it was. Making it back to a hotel, and he was by himself, vulnerable. But you think in a remote, desolate area where there's even less people about, you ever got in trouble? There'd be no chance. Well, let's just continue on. So Noah asked for a ride home. CC started taking other partygoers home, but not Noah, with a, emoji. CC, is CC the girlfriend of Jack Newton? If so, maybe CC decided to not take Noah home because it might trigger the situation more with Jack Newton, the boyfriend. And if CC felt uncomfortable around Noah, maybe she wanted to keep her distance from him, just to let the tension die down. It says at 1:42 a.m, which I'm assuming would be Monday, September 4th, at 1:42 a.m, BS. Now, I'm assuming BS does not mean bullshit, it means a person's name, initials. BS and Noah were playing the slap game, whilst IR was standing behind them with a long rifle of an unknown type or caliber. Right, we saw that in the footage, the house party footage. Now, once again, it did not give the actual day, it did not give the time. It was just simply a compilation of all footage mashed together over the days. So at 1:42 a.m, Monday, BS Noah playing slap game, whilst an individual known as IR standing behind with a rifle, which is a bit unusual. What's he doing with a rifle at a party? Was it used? Was it a murder weapon? But he wasn't shot, Noah. No, he wasn't. But you think of the rifle, the front, or the back end, I should say, the back end where the stock is, the butt stock, that can be used as a melee instrument. It's very capable of knocking people out, but how durable is it, right? If you was to find some evidence such as a firearm damaged, such as the stock, maybe that was used against Noah, but none of that has been mentioned since. It says 2 a.m, in between 2 to 3 a.m, activities are unknown. Interesting. Bit of a blank spot. 3 a.m, Jack Newton claims Noah wrecked the Polaris Ranger and got very dirty, so JM and other girls washed him. At 3:41 a.m, female at party post selfie, Noah is missing. Posting a selfie, missing, that doesn't sound exactly appropriate. What I can't quite get my head around, the saying that 3 a.m. in the morning of Monday that Noah wrecked a Ranger and then was taken to have a wash. But what about what was mentioned here on the Sunday, right? It must have been the Sunday, because it says midnight, Noah wrecked the SXS ATV. A few of the guys got mad. I thought that wreckage there was the same one that was mentioned here, where it says JN claims Noah wrecked the Ranger and got very dirty, so JM and other girls washed him at 3 a.m. What, on a Monday? What about the Sunday when he flipped the vehicle over? Are these two different events, flipping vehicles over? That's a bit confusing, that. If anyone can clear it up, feel free to do so. About 41 minutes later, at 3:41 a.m, a female at the party post, Noah's missing. It was at 3:30, and it's not mentioned here, but from the last timestamp or timeline what we looked at yesterday, it said 3:30 a.m, roundabout, is when Noah left the party. So basically, like 10, 11 minutes later, one of the females at the party said Noah's missing. But I'm guessing when they say missing, not out of pure suspicion, just, oh, he's left. It says, in a later interview, BS claimed he washed Noah as well. Is BS a male? I mean, that would make sense, because if it was a female, then you could question it, because if the roles were reversed, then there'd be claims made there, wouldn't there? Well, I don't know. It's just because when they say, I said, I don't know everyone's name. I don't know the abbreviated names. But when I was looking at the house party footage, in one clip, it showed a blonde female slapping Noah, I believe. But then a bit later, which I'm assuming is to do with early hours of Monday, where Noah and BS, they were slapping one another. So 2 different lots of people slapping Noah. A lot of slapping going on. Yeah, BS will be a guy, because wasn't Noah wearing black shorts but topless with a necklace and a hat at the party outside in the dark under that like carport, that shelter, that roofing? The guy in the background with a cap on, some like curly longish hair with a rifle talking to a female, and Noah in front kind of goading BS, I'm assuming, to slap him, and then when he does slap him, he runs away. And then the video cuts to another scene, another moment where I think BS is next to some guy saying, oh, it's Mike Tyson. Is that correct? Anyway, move down here. Unknown. Actually, just a quick question. Why would BS have to help wash Noah down? Is it because they think that Noah, if he's drunk, could slip about and bang his head inside, or he could somehow drown in the water? I don't get that. Why can't Noah wash himself? It goes on to say, unknown who all were involved in washing. I mean, how many people does it take to wash, a developed individual? And I say developed because they're a young adult, right? Still growing, but they're quite capable of washing themselves. Why would it need multiple people to help? I don't quite get that. See, this is the thing. If it truly required more than one person to help wash Noah, then what makes you think he was in any fit state to be leaving the party then by himself? You get me? Anyway, besides the unknown of who washed him as to the amount, it said all lied about it for months and then admitted it was at 3:30 a.m. Wait, they admitted that they washed Noah at 3:30 a.m. But what we saw yesterday, just recently, that at 3:30 Noah was leaving the party, not being washed. That's weird. And the whole talk about some of the people lying about washing Noah. Why did they lie? Is it because they felt embarrassed? Why should it matter? It's weird. It says Noah wanted to go to bed with AC or CC. 2 stories have circulated. Noah got mad and walked off. Noah and Jack Newton got in a huge argument, then went outside still arguing. So you're saying that maybe Jack Newton may have followed Noah outside during that argument. So you've got some flirting going on a Sunday, some talks going on with the girlfriend on a Saturday. Jack Newton gets a bit jealous by it. Noah breaking or on the edge of the boundary when it comes to a certain behaviour around females, especially when those females may be taken. Noah, supposedly forcing himself onto a female, wanting to go to bed with them, possibly because of being drunk, not quite thinking clearly or straight there. But it's saying that 2 stories are circulated. How true is it that Noah wanted to sleep with another female at the party? Right? How for definite is that? But in a way, if Jack Newton heard about that was the case at the time, you could understand why Jack would be getting a bit mad or frustrated with Noah. Best friend, stabbing in the back. How could you do that? But then again, you've got to be fair and say, besides Noah being the one all to blame, what about Jack Newton's girlfriend? What was Jack Newton's girlfriend doing? Was she easygoing with Noah, or was she saying, hey, Noah, nope, please no? What's the situation there? What's the relationship? Is it a strong relationship or is it a weak, tainted one? You know, when it comes to responsibility and who's to blame and who takes accountability, is it all one-sided or is it 50-50? Just got to ask these questions, right? It seems like Jack Newton is kind of on the outside seeing it all. Whether Jack Newton is becoming, or at the time was becoming, a bit paranoid or jealous, a misunderstanding. But then when it came to supposedly Noah wanting to go to bed with one of the females, if that truly did happen, and that's what Noah wanted, I can understand why Jack would get mad. Should it resort to possibly Jack killing Noah? That seems a step too far. I'm not saying that did happen, but because they're saying how supposedly one of the stories was as Noah left, and if this is tying in line with 3:30, and Jack Newton followed him outside, how far? It says at 4 a.m. in the morning on Monday, Jack Newton reported that Noah was dead by 4 a.m. See, this is the thing. How would Jack Newton know that Noah died at a certain time? To know when someone died at a certain time would mean you would have to be at the scene of the person dying and checking the time as well to record it. It says, by inbox to JR, but he did not find the body until 5:15 a.m. and called 911. Yeah, but what was it now? Was it 5:30 though? How in recent time what we saw a timeline at 5:30, a truck driver was first on scene and saw and called 911. Anyway, prior to JN finding the body, 2 truck drivers had found Noah between 5 a.m. and 5:30 a.m. Yes, and shielded Noah's body from the road. JN, Jack Newton, pulled directly up to Noah's body at 5:15 a.m. He showed no emotions, did not make any statements, and took Noah's shorts and left. He came back with a different pair of shorts and laid them beside Noah. None of that makes any sense at all. That is just random as hell, in my opinion at least. I want to know your thoughts there. We move on to the next slide here. Start from the top. So Jack Newton came back with several other boys, ML, BS, IR and KP. Okay, so BS is a male, as confirmed earlier on. First responders arrived from Terrell, BW, CN, then JW Sheriff. CN walked up, pulled a tooth out of his pocket and tossed it towards Noah, stating that he found it. Rumoured he found it on the ground. I mean, who's CN? First responders. Oh, so CN is a first responder. Pulling a tooth out of his own pocket and then tossing it towards Noah. That sounds very unprofessional. You know, let's say it's like dental records, a bit of evidence. You don't just start picking bits up and then putting it in your bloody pocket, especially if you're a first... Well, when I say first responders, is that like medics? Or does first responders mean anyone that gets there first? Either way, whether you're a professional or just a general public person, you don't go around picking up teeth, putting it in your pocket, then walking up towards Noah and then chucking it on the ground. That just sounds very silly, reckless, unprofessional. Just like how the friends are casually talking about Noah and his lifeless body and how he's beaten up and stuff and how he appears. You know, gore, brutality, and yet all these people seem to be so desensitized and almost like a zombie. What the hell's going on, right? It says, rumoured he found it on the ground. 6 a.m, RM showed up with other girls' parents. Right. They started cleaning up and made all the kids start cleaning up inside and out. Right, so I'm assuming they're talking about the party home, the party house. RM then removed all the guns from the house. Why? Remove all the guns from the house. Is that because the guns didn't exist in the house to begin with? Is it people came to that party with guns? How fucking weird is that? Once cleaning, several kids from the party noticed the golf clubs missing. Now, I saw a comment mentioned yesterday by a key viewer who suggested that supposedly golf clubs were missing. Why would they be missing? Well, first and foremost, a golf club can be used as a weapon, but clubs would mean more than one. And with the autopsy report stating that Noah Presgrove was brutalised and beaten possibly by multiple individuals with possible multiple items, the fact that multiple clubs were missing from the party could mean a group of guys took them and used them against Noah. I mean, I just find it hard to imagine Noah walking in the dark whilst a group of guys ambush him in the dark with bloody golf clubs. It just sounds madness. But then again, if people are drunk, random stuff can go on. I mean, the way this story is and how the information's being portrayed and the timestamps, it already sounds kind of crazy in some areas, especially the bit where it said about Noah wrecking the SX whatever ATV, but then it was mentioned that on a Monday it happened again. I mean, how many times did it happen? I thought it only happened once and then was washed down after because of getting dusty and dirty. Anyway, none of them had heard any discussion of Jack Newton going on a fishing trip. When? I saw a comment or a post elsewhere, maybe on Facebook or Reddit, saying about Jack Newton going on a fishing trip with his father. But when? On the Monday, on the day of the death? Early hours? Or later? Or a different day? 7:15 a.m, DP and VP arrived. The medical examiner's report put the truck driver on scene at 5:53 a.m, and the state trooper showing body was found at 6:18 a.m. That's it there. I don't know how people feel about that, but I just wanted to present it to you. We've seen this already, where it said about Jack, the best friend of Noah, claimed that he knew that Noah was dead at 4 a.m, which is weird. Justin Roy, who you see here on Reddit, is the same person who's posted on Facebook here with this timestamp, Justin Roy, the administrator. So it's the same exact person. So we got the consistency there. So Justin Roy in contact with Jack Newton letting Justin Roy know that he knew Noah was dead at 4 a.m. in the morning of September 4th, 2023 on a Monday. That's weird. Tim Howard, dude, why haven't you posted that or shown us where he told you that? That would blow this thing wide open. Justin says, Tim Howard, cops had it for months now, with a sad face. Right, so they've known about it all this time, and yet what's actually happened since? Not much. That's pretty shocking, right? And that's it for the timestamps, the additional, build up to everything going on, supposedly. Now it's time to move on to the map and try and make sense of it in a more, basic fashion. So here we are, near to Terrell, just down here, which I guess you call a town. Few buildings nearby. Assembly of God. I think Dale, Matlingo. You might need to head down there for some confession time. Naughty behaviour recently. Now, you might wonder what that weird shape is. It's not a banana being peeled, but it's the woodland area, or at least a part of the woodland area near to the party house. I've only highlighted that just in case there's any possibility as for items being over that way, etc. Now, not all of the timestamps are given here, only because it would clog up the screen, right? That's why I presented the earlier part at the start of this video. This is more about looking at it visually. What do we see and where are the places of interest? And obviously, the first place what we need to begin with would be the house party area. But just as a reference point for later on, there are certain markers highlighted and color-coded. So for most part of it, the red markers are to do specifically with Noah Presgrove. The blue markers are more to do with places of interest or possibilities, right? along the way or near to where either Noah was found dead or where he was actually killed at, or locations near to the party. As for the markers highlighted in black, that's on the theme of clothing change, but not for definite in terms of confirmation of the colour of clothing, with the shorts as example. When it comes to the purple markers, that's a mixture of the theme of the party, people at the party, and Jack Newton, the best friend. Okay? So, what's highlighted in purple is to do with the supposed accident, and what's highlighted in red is the direction of where he was found. Take in mind, as for the markers, I did come across some actual coordinates of the specific area where Noah's body was found and where the blood stain was. In terms of the distance between the two, it is a little bit odd. As, you know, in terms of the order of it, it's a bit weird. So, first and foremost, if we look here, so just tap it once. So that's facing north, okay? North of where the body was. We turn this way, we're looking west. Over there it says Texas. Is that like a borderline or something? Well, I don't know, it doesn't really show the line, but nevertheless, whatever. You can tell, it's very remote. Okay, you might have Terrell there and Oklahoma in the distance, but it's a bit more of a remote area, an outer skirt area, where it's more so dominated by farmland. When it's remote like that, you tend to have lack of surveillance, lack of witness reports, just because it's quieter and the population is smaller in size compared to denser urban areas, right? This isn't quite the same, but it's going across the same routes as the Dylan Rounds case. Lucin, Utah, a remote part of Utah, where there's really hardly anyone around nor anyone living. Does that apply to here as well? To a small extent. Sometimes when you get a remote area, it might be the perfect place for a murder to happen and for the ones responsible to get away with it. But before we turn left, what we're looking at is that 81, whatever you call it, highway, as mentioned in the description of the location. What runs in parallel to it is the railroad tracks for a train to pass on through. Some theories have come out just recently claiming that is there a possibility that Noah got struck by a train. Possibilities. What I do want to say is there is a possibility flicking in my mind, but I will highlight it later, so don't go anywhere, because I want to know your thoughts. But if we turn left here, you'd be entering down this road. I don't know if it's private or not, but you'd be going down towards the party house. And that's what Noah supposedly did on Saturday when he drove down there himself. And then later on in the day or evening, he left and made it back home because of that argument at the party with his best friend. Then Sunday, Noah returned back to the party, but this time not in his vehicle. He was picked up by other guys. So obviously on the Sunday going into the Monday, if and when Noah was willing to leave and depart from the area and have been rejected from getting a pickup, a ride back home, you'd basically think he would have had to have walked back home in the dark. Yeah, that doesn't sound right, does it? But before we get to that point, let's just make our way down this like dirt road, highlighted in purple. And it's just on the right here where the party house is. I'll just flip the image so it's a bit easier to see. So it just fell over in the background, fuck me. So there you go. That's the party house there. Round the back appears to be a trampoline, possibly. Now, I highlighted it as a 4-day party. From what we read in that little timeline, it was a 3-day party, but maybe it was a 3-day party for Noah, but the actual party started the day before, the Friday. And it would make sense because it was like the Memorial Day weekend in the Dylan Rounds case. it started on a Friday because, coming towards the end of a work week, and then people hanging out, getting ready for the weekend, the Saturday, the Sunday. And that was described as a 3-day holiday or a 3-day celebration. As for here, 3 to 4 days of partying. As for these people specifically, yeah. But for Noah, maybe only 3 days because he only came on down on a Saturday. So maybe he missed a day out. Regardless, the party did occur over Labour Day or Labour weekend, whatever you want to call it. As for the person that owns the house, I highlighted it as Jack's girlfriend's house because that's how it was explained last night. From the earlier video that I did today about the home owner of the house, giving some suspicious points made, very suspicious. If you'd like to learn more about that, as said, click top right corner of the screen where the eye symbol is after watching this video, and then you'll understand. So the homeowner saying what they had to say, but the homeowner wasn't described as Jack's girlfriend. So I'm assuming that the homeowner are the parents of the girlfriend of Jack, if that's the correct way of wording it in that order. As for the land nearby, it seems to be farming related. I don't know if this house or the homeowner is linked with this whole land or the farming nearby. If anyone can clear that up, that'd be appreciated. Some kind of like gravel or concrete path road leading up to the house. And nearby you do have this kind of like shelter here. And kind of round the back, some kind of small shed or so. I believe this to be the area. And I've highlighted it with that marker, a hazard symbol, because kind of like a danger. Like a red flag, how it stood out. I believe this was the spot where Noah was asking to be slapped, and that would be by BS, wouldn't it? The party footage shows a guy in the background with a rifle talking to a girl, and we could clearly see that in the footage, holding a rifle. And Noah was in front, asking another guy to slap him, and that's what happened. So I believe this is the area because of the colouring of it, in terms of what's in the background, that little shed. And it looked like they were under some kind of shelter. And that matches this description here. As for the party house, the footage inside where they were dancing, singing, drawing, that would have been inside that building from the looks of it. Roughly, for the right reasons, not to be taken out of context, they're the coordinates there, in case you're wondering. Okay? It's all publicly viewable online, in case you're wondering. There is a tree there. Now, what else do we need to look at? So whatever went on at the party, some arguments on a Saturday, then followed on a Sunday or Monday, breaking point early hours of the morning, and then Noah leaving a second time round, but one of the stories being Jack following at him outside the house. We'll get to that very shortly, but before we go any further, one of the events that occurred in between supposedly was Noah. Let me just zoom on in because it doesn't seem to show it properly. Highlighted in the red marker with the car symbol, which links with this purple line. I'll explain. The ATV tipped over by Noah and friends inside who were a bit mad at what Noah did. Now, Noah supposedly drunk at the time. Not under the influence of drugs, but just drunk. No matter where you are, if you're drunk driving, it's not a good idea. It can end badly for you or for others or both. In this case, it didn't end badly for anyone exactly. No one was hurt and there was no reports of damage to the vehicle. I'm a little bit surprised. Now, a key person last night who I asked, who's known a lot about the case, I said, where did the vehicle tip over? If it supposedly did happen, where did Noah drive the ATV for it to cause that accident? Was it on the main road? Was it on the highway near to where his body was found later or further away? It was described that it was down the dirt road near to the party house, hence why I've highlighted it in purple here. I don't know how far up or how far down, But if you think about it, just outside of the house where everybody's gathering, maybe Noah was messing about, decided to get into the vehicle and drive up and down the roadway. Was it a form of showing off? You never know. That's what sometimes that's what drunk people do, show off to their mates, their friends, and it can go wrong. Now, with this being the road here, if the ATV was to tip over, it would be falling onto possibly soft grassland or somewhat dry, solid dirt. Okay, not many obstructions in the way from the looks of it. I mean, there is like a black line going all the way down. I don't know if that's a fence or they're bushes, like vegetation. If it was some kind of vegetation, it could act as a possible soft landing if anything was to land on it or crash against it. Of course, it depends what speed Noah was driving at. For it to tip over, and considering the road looks somewhat narrow, where would one suddenly turn around? Would it be up here where you get like an example of a turnaround point? But then that looks like somebody else's property. Would it be here, the turnaround point just outside the party house? Driving down, making a hard right or hard left, depending which way you're coming up or down, and upon doing a hard turn, that's what caused the vehicle to flip over. And it would have been a bit of a shock to people, those watching, present, and those inside of the vehicle. The ones who haven't got control of the vehicle, I could understand why they would be annoyed and pissed off because, Noah, reckless driving, putting other people's lives at risk. It's not a good look. So what I'm trying to say is, with these little events going on, depending how you look at it, if the image is portrayed that Noah is a bit of a troublemaker by endangering the lives of certain guys in the vehicle by crashing it, but then also by not endangering, but getting in the way of friendships by talking behind the back of Jack Newton's girlfriend or wanting to sleep with her, then, it's kind of like Noah is being seen as a bit of a troublemaker. And at the end of the day, with all that being said, does it warrant him dying or being killed? No. But if you start making enemies, a lot of them, the chances of survival do decrease, or the chances of being safe decrease. Because, the more you get on the bad side of someone, or the more the range of people you get on the bad side of people, they could end up attacking you for it and getting revenge. Big scale or small scale, it can happen. So, in terms of that supposed ATV crash, although it wasn't fatal, was there any grazes, any scrapes, bruises? Not quite sure about. But did say that Noah had to clean himself because he got very dusty and dirty. Well, that being the case, likely it would have been on this side of the land near to the house rather than this side because it looks quite green here. Unless time of the season, this satellite imagery could be outdated. We need to acknowledge that at least. But if I'm looking at it from this side, it does look more dry and closer to the property. It does look very dusty. So if you was to end up crash, maybe fall on the ground, roll over, it can happen. You see it where people drive ATVs off-road, on dirt land, off-road, especially in dry conditions. You see all the dust as it cakes the screen, covers your face, covers your clothing, really dry, and you need to wash it all off. You feel uncomfortable, etc. So in a case with Noah, that can happen. But to be honest, to gather a lot of dirt on you would mean driving for some time in dusty conditions and terrain. To just drive up and down a little bit and then supposedly crash, turn over, flip the vehicle over, how much dust and dirt was there? And why did Noah have to be escorted to the shower and cleaned possibly by another individual? How come the group of guys in the ATV who also crashed alongside Noah, why did none of them need a wash? Did any of them get dirty or dusty? And if they did, why was Noah given the special treatment then? Did Noah want the wash and the other guys didn't? Or what? You get what I'm saying? If Noah's going to have a wash, why don't the other guys have a wash? If they're all in the same vehicle together when it crashed, makes sense. And that talk about Noah wanting to go to bed, and that's all he's got on his mind. why does he need a wash? You'd think having a wash before going to bed could actually wake you up, depending on the situation, whether it's a hot shower or a cold shower. But in the process of that all happening and unfolding, before the vehicle flipped over, it was described as Noah wearing black shorts. And when it came to the ATV being tipped over, it was said he changed his clothes from black shorts to beige. Now, the reason why I put white here is because that's what was described at the scene of the supposed crime later on. And I'll try and explain that a bit later. Okay? So there has been conflicts with the colour clothing of the shorts. From what we've seen from the house footage, whether it be Saturday, Sunday, or both, it appeared that Noah was wearing black shorts, topless, no shirt around, wearing some kind of baseball cap and a necklace, and that was mainly it. Now, if that's the same exact attire what he was wearing during that ATV ride, which went wrong, could that be why he had a couple of grazes on his arms or on his cheek, on certain parts of his body, which didn't have anything to do with the death of him later, but this early accident because of tipping over? I don't know if he would have fallen out of the ATV and scraped his body across the ground or not, but if it did, it could possibly explain as to why there's certain slight minor injuries showing, which came up on the autopsy report. Because they said in the autopsy report there were scabs. And if there were scabs, well, that could have been caused from that accident. It healed up in between. The blood dried up on any of the cuts, the grazes. And then that's what followed after, in which there was further damage done, but like an overkill. So this ATV accident, I don't think is what caused the death of Noah. But then again, you could argue and say, well, this story is being told from witnesses and friends or partygoers at the party, who, in which, in other cases, they can't even get their story straight, and there's contradictions made amongst them all. What can you believe, right? For me, it just seems really hard to believe how a drunk person is allowed to just drive up and down, crash it, and then go back into the house, once asleep. But then that doesn't happen because things get a bit awkward. Then wants to be taken home, but doesn't. That's rejected. So then Noah just leaves by himself. He's not in any fit state to be doing that. If Noah isn't the type of person to start sleeping around, if Noah isn't the type of person to go behind the back of his friend, such as with the girlfriend, if he normally isn't like that, then the girlfriend, should know that and understand that Noah is doing what he's doing because he's drunk, he's not thinking clearly. Okay? Still not the right thing to be doing, but just not thinking clearly. Making mistakes, regretting it possibly the next day, but wasn't able to get to that point because he died. You get what I'm saying? So, if Noah was in such a state, and especially after that ATV crashing over, surely you would think, you know what, you want to go home, there's arguments going on, the best thing you can do is probably leave, because the longer you stay here for, the more tension, more people feel uncomfortable, others are considering leaving. Remove the problem. If Noah is seen as the problem, remove him from the property, but not kill him, right? And drive him home. Because he was driven there in the first place, he should be allowed to be driven back, right? The exception being on the Saturday, he drove there himself and then drove back. But I'll be honest with you, I wouldn't be surprised if, let's say things changed. If it happened where Noah got here, I'm going to do Street View. I'll do Street View whilst I continue the story, just so you can see the road for yourself. Over in the distance, over that way where you see that truck, that's in the direction where his body was found, and that was on Monday, September 4th. When looking down that way, although it's out of sight, you go further down there, you reach the town of Terrell. As you see all around, it's mainly farmland and fairly dry due to the climate, the weather, the temperature. By the side here, on the left, are the railroad tracks where trains pass down. If we just move a bit further up, on this left, and you can actually see the track marks there, okay? The turn. Now, I'll be honest with you, do you know that black line there? That does look like a black tyre mark, like a skid mark. And when I think back to the satellite imagery, when I looked at Nevada, when I looked at Lucin, it was either 2024 or 2023. Now, if it dates back to 2023, such as this imagery, I'm not saying it is, but if it did, this could be more relevant to the time of how events unfolded for Noah Presgrove. If we're considering driving up and down and then you see these black skid marks, track marks, it's like a vehicle pulled out or was pulling in and the tyres spun. You see where the black mark is? It might not be anything special, but it just stands out to me. Look at that. That looks like a burnout. Why would there be a burnout at the pull-out section of this main highway? Why would you do a burnout when coming out of that street, approaching a possible busy road depending on the time? Granted, there are these black patches here, but I think that's just been filled in where there's been cracks in the road, possibly. Like surface repair, possibly. Could you say that's the same thing? No, because that definitely looks like a track mark. And you can actually see a faint bit on the left-hand side too. It's actually blurred as well. I don't know if you can see, but centre the screen, there's like a square box and it's blurred out. What's that got to do with? Is that like with the Idaho 4 situation where key areas of interest were blurred out? Or what? Is it just a visual glitch? If I move along a bit more, can you see that black line? It looks like a burnout. Does that have anything to do with 2023 when the ATV was tipped over by Noah Presgrove? Is there any relevance to this later in the early hours of Monday then, when Noah was leaving the property and possibly Jack followed after him, right? Or someone else? I want to know your thoughts on the matter. Of course, there are some faint track marks, dirt marks, which lead down there, as you'd expect, but a burnout would look like someone's either in a rush or a mistake was made, or someone was going a bit too fast and had to hard brake, one or the other. Let me know. You see the train crossing there, you can drive over it, but of course you got to be cautious if there are trains passing by. Now, maybe it's not necessary, but I'm just surprised they don't have those little barriers that go across in case there's an oncoming train. Are there any lights at the crossing which will flash to indicate a train approaching? It doesn't seem to be the case. I know you could possibly just look straight down, but to be honest, there are obstructions like that tree, the vegetation. You might not be able to see it clearly. I think they should have like some kind of barrier there just to alert people. Nevertheless, although it's kind of out of sight, further down there is the party house. And I believe it's behind that tree in the distance. You can kind of make out a faint few objects. I can see some kind of orange roof, and that is probably the roof what we saw, in which underneath it was when that guy with the rifle was stood there and Noah was in front asking BS to slap him. Okay? There are some additional vehicles down there, but I don't know how relevant to the time it was when this was taken as to when Noah was killed. Well, died. But definitely there's a level of volume of traffic coming in and out of the place. So there's that to take into consideration. Unfortunately, I can't go any further or closer to the property, so that's a shame. Now, there is a yellow marker there. What the hell's that? I don't know. Signs, but they're normal signs. It's a stop sign. See, this is the thing. You're pulling out onto like a main road or highway. There is clearly a stop sign to say you're supposed to stop here when you reach the end, and yet there's a burnout mark. Whether that be entering or exiting, it doesn't sound too good to me. Now, this yellow mark there is what you see there as well. I believe it could possibly be, what do you call it? It reflects in the dark, or it reflects when light from a car makes contact with it. Kind of like a marker to say, hey, don't drive over this way because you'll be crashing, possibly. As I said, there is a ditch which runs alongside in between the railroad tracks and the highway, so that could fill up with water. Upon looking here, where you see that concrete, I think that could be like some kind of grid or sewer. because down there where it looks a bit patchy, it looks like that's where water would come out and gather. Hence why you got the ditch which runs down there, and it's kind of out of sight like a blind spot. Now, if you had a ditch like that which was further down that way, could I explain as to why on the Sunday, if we're saying it happened on a Sunday, when the ATV flipped over? Well, it doesn't look like I can see any dips. What I can see is a fence line that goes all the way down, at least on one side. And you got those overhead power lines. Now, if the vehicle was to flip over on that left-hand side, it would have made contact possibly with the fence or one of those power head lines. And if a vehicle made contact with it, it could have dented the vehicle or it could have scraped the paint off. And it was described as 0 damage done to the vehicle despite flipping it over, which is quite a surprise. So maybe it happened on the right-hand side. You can see vegetation. If a vehicle flips and fell onto vegetation, it kind of cushions the impact for maybe possibly the driver, the passengers, but also the vehicle itself. Where the vehicle landed on a hard surface or made contact with force, damage can be done. There was no damage as it was reported. So there's that to take into consideration. I will have to zoom out because, you know, when you see these properties here, I just want to make sure that I've not gone too far. Right, so maybe I may have looked a bit too far down. Just let me check something. Right, so that's kind of like a witness house as I described. What you see there, so in between those two trees, that's the area. I'd probably say, as a correction, apologies in advance. Well, no, apologies too late. So the marker, which I said there, this is what I highlighted, and I said that is where the footage showed of the guy holding the rifle. I don't think that is the case. It would have to be here, because this house is a bit of an overhang, like a porch, or, you know, like a porch overhang, because when you look at it head on, and I should be right in saying, when looking at it head on down that way, past that crossing sign, you can clearly see that that orange roof is actually like a big shed or a big barn, and there's no overhang, there's no roofing that overhangs it where you could stand underneath. Though that building, what we saw nearby, there is an overhang. Now, it's kind of deceiving, I'll be honest with you. It's kind of deceiving because those buildings over there look a lot smaller on street view imagery than when you compare it to the bird's eye view. Now, yeah, you're looking at it from different angles, but it just kind of messes with my mind. But as you see, that building over there is a roof that overhangs, so you can be outside of the house but protected from weather. And roughly in that area is where we saw some of the footage when Noah Presgrove was outside. So, okay, apologies about that. We will make our way further up that way. What I do want to say, just by the odd chance, if the job was done properly by somebody in disposing, would there be much opportunity to dispose of Noah? That can be a question that sits for now, and I will apply it later. But yeah, that's the road leading down to the party house, the US 81 near to Terrell. Let's turn it off for a second. So highlighted in purple is the dirt road leading down, and in the area roughly where the vehicle tipped over by Noah, probably because he's drunk and messing about, and the consequences were felt from that. Going back into the house, being escorted, supposedly being helped and washed down, then wanting to sleep in one of the girls' bedrooms. Now, how it was worded in the Daily Mail, what we read just recently, that he wanted to sleep in the bedroom of one of the girls, but not with a girl. But what we read today, it was worded as he wanted to sleep in one of the girls' bedrooms with one of the girls. Surely it would have had to have been the girl that actually lives there, in which that's her bedroom. So wouldn't that be Jack's girlfriend's then? Correct me if I'm wrong. But what happened after that? Refusing? I guess so. Then what? Jack's girlfriend distancing herself from Noah for the rest of that party. And when it came to dropping people off, taking people home, when Noah wanted to be dropped off back at home, it didn't happen. So because of tension and that kind of like awkward atmosphere, Noah just walking off. And this is to do with the early hours of Monday, September 4th. And one of the stories being that Jack Newton, the best friend, followed Noah outside as an argument followed. But how long for, right? This is the area of what we need to try and understand. Early hours of Monday. Not the right time to be walking out and about, especially when you're near to a highway or a main road. And if you're walking, it's just not a good idea. And if you're drunk as well, it makes everything a lot worse. Your decision making, your reaction timing is impaired, knock-on effect. So leaving the party, leaving the property, and you would think heading towards the main road because that's the entrance and exit point. Would there be any need to go the other way? I don't think so. But let's just at least acknowledge what's nearby to this party house. And if anyone can explain the owners of the property, that would be good. So further down, which would be west of the party house, there is another property down here, which looks like some kind of farm or ranch. You can see how it's fenced off in areas and some farming equipment. There is an RV trailer just there in a corner, tucked away. I don't know if that's a boat on a trailer as well or not. There is a building there, a house, and some vehicles parked outside. I said witnesses only because if they're nearby, would they have seen the commotion or heard any noise going on? Do they know the party goers very well or not? Are they strangers to them? Did anyone from this property end up going down to the party house on any of the days, Saturday, Sunday, or Monday? If anyone can clear that up, that would be appreciated. And if anyone knows who is the homeowner of this house, related to the case or not, if you're able to clear it up, that would be appreciated. I've just highlighted it as witnesses for now, person of interest, because they're nearby to the events unfolding. And surely these people would have heard maybe the crash, if it's driving up and down and then it tips over, and then if people screamed or shout, you thought maybe a reaction. Because the house is pointing down that way, if this house had a doorbell camera or any kind of surveillance for security reasons, would it be pointing down in that direction to monitor any behaviour? Would it have captured any movement from Noah when he was leaving indefinitely from the party the final time round? And would it have shown any footage of Jack following him out, almost like stalking, right? So you see the distance. We can actually measure the distance now. So from this property here, right down at the bottom of this dirt road, up to the party house, it's about 0.28 miles, 0.27. And from the bottom to the very top where you pull out, it's 0.53 miles. Not far at all. Okay, so you had that. Towards the bottom, you do have, I don't know what that is. Is it just dried up land? It looks sandy. Over that way, you do have the Red River, but that's too far away. Closer, though, you do have a woodland area, which does have quite a bit of a gradient, because you can see how it dips down here. I don't know if it would have been a wash, or it could flood with water. Over that way, there's water there, so maybe a dried up quarry. There are track marks, so you're obviously able to drive down on that land, whether it's private or not, owned by these people nearby. I'm just saying that there is woodland, so there is concealment, as you can see. There are blind spots lower down, but it's unlikely that Noah was killed down here, because if he was, there would have been witnesses nearby closer to it happening, so they wouldn't have been able to get away with it. It does run its way all the way down here, as I highlighted. Major bold patches and blind spots, really out of the way from any humans living by. You do have these ponds, though, with water, though there is no talk about anything being dumped in any of the ponds, so we don't need to focus too much on that. But if there was a lack of evidence or incriminating evidence, you could say, was anything dumped at these areas? And we'll go to locations more relevant closer to where the body was found. But what I'm suggesting is, if people are responsible for killing Noah Presgrove, obviously they've not come forwards because they're laying low. Now, if that's the case, and that Noah was beaten to death with items, murder items, where are they at? Have they been disposed of? Are they the only items that have been disposed of, I wonder? There's that talk in the background about golf clubs missing from the party house. Why are golf clubs at the party house to begin with? Did people take them there to play? Or were they just in the house as an actual possession owned by the homeowner? And people decide to take some of the clubs away to use on Noah later. A blunt instrument, possibly, because it is blunt. But what would they have done with those items after? Why would you go to such effort in disposing of a murder weapon but leaving the body out in the open? That sounds a bit backwards, doesn't it? But like when it came to the Dylan Rounds case, anything is possible. So, just wanted to give you a brief tour of the surrounding area. Quite vast, quite open. And you can see the dense woodland further back here, which does follow. And there appears to possibly be a wash or a river in between, because it dips and it could fill up. And it makes its way to this point here, near to the railroad tracks and the highway, and it's filled with water just there, whether that be a pond or not. If I was to do street view, can I make out the woodland? Well, so there you go. That's what I was talking about, the woodland over there, very dense. Move along if possible. A lot of blind spots if the vegetation's there. It's hard to see. Move along. There you can still see underneath, but further back, yeah. Really puts into perspective, doesn't it? So it should be over that way. You see that faint little building? That should be the party house. Yeah, it should be that. Yeah, that's it. That's consistent, because when I said, was there any witnesses? At the top of the street, you had the house over there near the trees. And then down at the bottom, you had that like farm or the one with the RV trailer nearer to the woodland area. So in between is the party house. So that's checked off the list. See the dense woodland over that way. No reports or news about anything occurring over that way. But considering it's out of sight, I'm surprised no one did do anything over there. It would have been like opportunistic behaviour, I would say. So with that being in mind, and we've also highlighted this building here, which we did see on the maps, bit of a backyard or so, house there, building. Is that a trailer by the side? Not too sure. Are there any witnesses from this building that may have seen or got surveillance aimed in that direction down there, or pointing towards the driveway leading to the top of the road there when pulling out? Any surveillance that could have been used? Any CCTV footage? Any Ring a doorbell camera footage? Has that ever been recovered? Does it even exist? Is that even available or not? And was anyone living here at the time? Did any of them go down to the party themselves or not? Right? If those questions can be answered, that could help make sense of stuff. So, with that all being said and done, what happened to Noah Presgrove early hours of Monday? Early hours would have been dark still. Very likely dark. We're talking about September. You think of the seasons, you think of it getting a bit darker earlier on, right? Lighter in the morning time, not quite. So we're taking that in mind. If Noah was to leave the party and make his way back home, it would mean walking on foot, because he did ask for a lift back and that was rejected. If the alternative or the secondary story was true that Jack followed him out, how far down? Continuously walking down here? Do you know what I want to say? And I want to tie this in line with what Louise was suggesting, right? Louise came out with a random point, but when you think about it, there's a possibility that is there a chance that Noah Presgrove was caught in a hit and run? A hit and run? Or something else, like a train? How could you get hit by a train? Well, it just so happens that this dirt road actually crosses over a railroad crossing line. If you're drunk and you're not quite alert with the environment and what's around you, you could get hit by a train easily, especially when there's not much safety around. So what am I saying? Is there a chance that when Noah was leaving the property, whether he was being followed or not, was making his way down to here, this dirt road, and once he got to the train crossing, as you see highlighted, did he stumble? Did he get distracted? And there was an oncoming train which hit Noah at great force, and that's what caused the injuries. Well, if that was the case, if you think about it, it depends what angle. There has been footage online, and I've seen it, where people have been hit by trains. Not suicide attempts, just accidental, where people aren't paying attention, and it's happened in India quite often. People too close to the tracks, people walking by or trying to take a photo. A train comes zooming past and clips the person's head or upper body. The legs aren't impacted, the arms aren't impacted that much, but the side of their body is clipped by the train, which causes them to be flung to the side. If you were straight up on the tracks, you would get hit head on, right? Depending which way you're facing. And there's a chance more damage would be done to your lower body as well. And there'll be a chance that you could be run over as well. But if you was, you would have been decapitated. That wasn't the case with Noah. How could any of this have happened though? And if it did, what about the train driver? Why did they not see or hear anything? Wouldn't they have stopped the train? Oh, but it's nighttime, you wouldn't have seen it. Yes, but if you think about it, if you're a train driver at night, you do have bright lights. It's not easy to stop though if there was suddenly something, appearing on the tracks up ahead. It might be hard to stop, but surely they would have stopped if they clearly saw that someone was crossing the train line, the crossing, right? Unless it happened far too quickly for the driver to even notice he hit a human, right? It's about putting that into perspective. If I go to Street View, just so you can see it for yourself as for the theory, the argument would be, well, if that truly was the case, that somehow when Noah was leaving the property and crossing that train line on foot, he somehow got hit by a train, or more so clipped by the train, hence only certain body parts being badly damaged. Why would he end up, though, all the way down there? I don't think a train would have hit him and flung him into the distance like a game of discus or javelin at the Olympics. No. The element in between where you could try and put a theory, and only a theory across, to do with kind of a hit and run, but not literally. But in terms of the actions from somebody else that witnessed it, cowardly behaviour. Maybe because they feel responsible for the death of Noah. Let me just explain. If it was true that Jack Newton, Noah's best friend, was following him out down the road, continuing that argument, if it continued all the way to the top, just at the crossing, upon Noah walking across it, if Jack said, hey, turn around, or hey, you, some kind of distraction, and that's what caused Noah to stop in his tracks, whether it be a warning or a question. And as he turned around and got distracted, then a train suddenly passed by and hit him or clipped him. And that's why Noah was damaged so badly, and that's why possibly Jack knew when Noah died, because Jack was there to see it happen. Jack saw his best friend get hit by a train, and maybe at the time of when Jack was continuing talking, or more so arguing those final minutes with his friend, he feels responsible because he caused a distraction, which then led for Noah to stop or turn around, and then a train came by and hit him. I mean, it would make sense as to why Jack knew at what time Noah died. That would make sense there. As I said, this is just a theory, but I'm trying to piece it together to make sense of it. I would like to know your thoughts, though, about what I just said. If you could leave your comments in the chat or the comments section. Now, if that really did happen, likely Noah would have been flung about, but not far away. So then how would he end up down at the highway? Was it easier for someone like Jack to say, you know what, I or me and some others are going to dispose of him elsewhere to make it and stage it like a hit and run? Is it a possibility that someone like Jack and some others secretly wanted suffering and karma to catch up on Noah, so that when it did happen as an accident, they thought, right, let's just stage it? But to be honest, the simplest thing they could have done was just not even touch the body. Let's just put it like that. Not saying that they were responsible for moving Noah, but if something happened here, right at the crossing line of a train passing by, the easiest thing to do would have been to just leave Noah where he's at and then call the police or call the ambulance. Because if they did an autopsy report, they would have clearly identified that it was an accident and that cause of death was by a train, right? From the autopsy of what we've looked at recently, it was described more so that it was likely a group of guys or a group of people that repeatedly attacked Noah. That clearly goes against the idea of a train. But they were also highlighting the chance that another theory could be Noah sustained injury from falling out of a moving vehicle, such as an accident, and that's not been completely ruled out. Well, what about in between? Accidental death paired with getting hit or clipped by a train, hit in the head or the top area, completely knocked to the side with such force, being dragged across the ground with the momentum and causing the grazing. It's very possible. I mean, when I've seen footage of some people being hit by trains, it's not as gory as you expect. Some are very bad, but other times not as bad. It doesn't always lead to decapitation. It doesn't always lead to blood splattering all over the place. Take in mind, a counterpoint could be no blood was found at this area, and it didn't rain either. So, as a counterpoint, if Noah was hit by a train, blood splatter or a form of blood should have been noticeable in this area, considering that the autopsy report said that he did lose quite a few litres or pints of blood. Very serious. But what they were also claiming was the lack of it was found at the actual area where the body was found. Chances are that the body was moved on from the actual spot where he was killed. So that's interesting. Why couldn't the police, why can't authorities have found the area where the blood was at? I mean, how fast were the respondents? If they were fast to respond within a day or so, well, it would have been, right? So like September 4th, early hours of the morning, getting on to about 5, 6, and then police coming on down, and then treating it as a crime scene or so. But then when did they expand on searching elsewhere? Did they or didn't they? I think it was worded as they didn't, so wasted opportunity. Where else could they have looked, though, to try and figure out where the actual murder or death took place for all that blood to be lost? You don't lose blood and it just magically disappears within a day or a few hours. There has to be a spot, there has to be an area where all that blood was drained or lost, and then the body moved on afterwards. Was it done on purpose to let all the blood come out and then move the body elsewhere after. I don't know. Other people are saying that maybe some are responsible, those from the party, took it out on Noah, maybe as a form of revenge or something, or to teach him a lesson, and then moved him after. There's another split of people that are saying, to an extent, it's true, but more so somehow an accident and a hit and run, and panicked and worried and decided to just dump the body on the highway as it would be easier to explain. But is it really? No, because there's more questions than answers, and still a mystery to this day. Just for a breather, let's just zoom on out. Moving our way down, heading north down this highway, we got a lot of markers here. Once again, just out of interest, you do have like a crossing, like a four-way, once again, where these tracks. Interestingly, I think there might actually be a barrier there at the train crossing compared, unlike down here, where you just simply drive across, which is a bit weird. But just before where the body was found, you got a left and a right turn. Anything of interest there? Probably not, but like when we're saying about the woodland area, not far away, you just drive down there, you got this land here in faint colour. Following it down, it gets to this area here. Interesting, with a building structure there. It says Texas, so is this getting into Texas now? Well, and then these items. Is this some kind of quarry or mining? It looks likely to be a quarry or mine. There's even like water there, water there. That does look like a quarry to me. Now, that hasn't got anything to do with Noah, but it's just a place nearby, though it is across the border, so worth taking into consideration. Near to Red River, as you see here, which runs down there, and obviously there's Oklahoma with the tree lines, the thick woodland on this side, just around the back of the party place. So you can see it's kind of uniformed together and nearby one another, not far in distance. On the right there, farmland once again, in which, parallel to where the body was found, you got a pond here, as you can see. Relevant or not? Probably not, but considering it's nearby, if the body was dumped here, just dumped, was anything else dumped nearby, such as in that pond? Any murder weapons? Any phones? Any extra information that could be of interest? I want to know your thoughts regarding that. Coordinates to the pond nearby is on screen. Pause the video if you want and save it or write it down. I will do street view, just so we can see at that crossroads section, if it will allow me. Do you see that? That is crazy. Now, I could be wrong in saying, but that's crazy. Why on earth at a crossing like this where trains pass through, why are there barriers and red lights here to alert people of when to pass through and when to stop? Why is something like that there, but when you work your way down to the actual house residential zone where the party took place, there is absolutely no barrier whatsoever? Yeah, it's the same exact train track which runs all the way down there. Whichever way trains are coming up or down, why is there no barrier here, no precautions, when there could be more people coming and going down that road because just normal people live down there? Why is that so poorly done? Yet this area here, there's extra precaution. What the hell? All I could argue and say is maybe because of slower moving vehicles, it takes more time to move. And if the vehicles are bigger and longer, it takes more time to pass over the tracks. So with a quarry being down there, although you can't see it, some kind of quarry and equipment being transported there and from, trucks, trailers, excavators, anything that could be transported down that way would have to cross over these tracks and would probably be driving fairly slow as well. They would need extra time to pass on through. Hence why the barriers are there and the lights to give a warning, right? Precaution. I get that because of slower, heavier, bigger, longer moving vehicles, possibly. But if you're going to have markers and barriers here, you might as well just have them down there as well for the general public, just so then people know when to cross and when not. You know, just as like a safety thing. I might be wrong, but if you're going to have them here, you might as well have them further down as well. Does anyone agree or not? Though at times it still won't stop people from going through. Some people just walk through. Some people go underneath it. People on bikes. Some people just crash right through. You do get the other occasions where even when the barriers might come down, a truck might have already crossed over but then broke down or got stuck. Barriers have come down and then they've had to flee the vehicle and then the train's ploughed through. So things can still go wrong, but just wanted to highlight that. Then looking down that way, the dirt road, what I just said, and somewhere over there, over that mound, would be the pond area. And down that way is where his body was, Noah Presgrove. So if we work our way down, just turn that thing off because it flashes too much. We've got quite a few markers here. Where I've got my markers is supposedly exactly where the body was. September 4th, Noah's body found at around 5:30 a.m. by a truck driver. We saw though how it was worded as 5:15 that Jack got there first. But that wasn't the case because it was worded officially in the recent news articles where it was 5:30 a.m. Truck driver came across the body, then alerted the police. And then after, Jack turned up. If we just do a street view imagery, I don't know if it'll reveal anything or not. Not from the looks of it. So you could argue and say maybe this is outdated. I'm looking on the right side. This is roughly the area of where his body was. If I be honest with you, this might actually be the spot I was looking at last time. Could be wrong, but it seems like it. No, actually, no, it's not. It's not. I think I might have been further down that way when I said it was a deeper ditch. So yeah, I'm either further up or further down. Fence line over there on the other side because of the land. Not really much being given away here. Bit patchy there. No markings on the ground, no white chalk, nothing. So either this was taken after the death or before. It doesn't give a date, the street view, which is a great shame, right? You get the idea of the area. How it appears. Nothing special, very open, dumped by the side of the highway. See, this is the thing. It seems like Noah passed away elsewhere and then was taken down to here and then disposed of. It seems more likely that because he was found already on the side of the highway. He wasn't found in the middle of the highway or on one of the lanes, like the left or the right side. He was literally on the side here, away from traffic. So it's like, okay, Noah has sustained brutal injuries and maybe there are people responsible. We're going to dispose of him now and dump him on the highway. But we're not going to dump him in the middle of the highway so more vehicles run over his mangled body. No, we're going to gently place him on the side like some roadkill. You get what I'm saying? Like that type of description. That's what it feels like. Now, the interesting thing was, like I said, there wasn't much blood found. There wasn't enough blood found to justify how much was originally lost. So where else was that? Unknown. But not far away, a blood stain was found. Now, this is supposedly given by key coordinates, but when you look at the distance of it, how can blood be found here, but the body found there? How does blood travel that far? And from what direction, coming or going down the highway? If Noah was just simply, if someone or some people were disposing of Noah on the side of the highway, why would blood be away from the body? Shouldn't the blood be next to the body if he was just simply dumped out in the open and then any blood left over in Noah's body leaked out and then created a bit of a pool of blood? For it to be separate away from his body is unusual. It seems as if his body was dragged from point A to point B. That's how you could interpret it. It's weird. It's weird to comprehend. The other thing that was mentioned was Noah was found mostly unclothed. He did have shorts, but he wasn't wearing them upon when his body was found. The shorts were found nearby, but they were described as a different colour besides black. Supposedly white shorts. Now, could those white shorts be from way back when he was at the party and he was changing his clothes? Well, they were described as beige at the time. So you see the contradictions going from black shorts to beige shorts to white shorts. Seems to get through a lot of clothes in a few hours, doesn't he? Unless it was mistaken that the white shorts were mistaken for beige. Sometimes beige can look white depending on the shade, right? So maybe that's the exception. It's just weird that regardless of whether he's dumped here or killed here on the spot, how did his shorts end up off of him? Were they pulled off? They weren't damaged, but his bottom was grazed. How can your skin, your surface level, be damaged, but what's worn to cover over that area is intact? You'd think if you're wearing clothing at the time of when injury is caused to that area, the first surface layer being the clothing would receive the damage, then followed by the skin. You know, if it's been torn or ripped. And yet the shorts were in okay condition and left by the side of his body. Weird. But there was claims made that the white shorts were actually folded near the body. Not just dangling about, not spread out, but folded. Who the hell folds shorts and leaves them next to the body? That seems a bit random. If a blanket or something was used to cover Noah, you know, like privacy and respect, considering he's unclothed, yeah, maybe that could have been done by a passerby who first saw the body and thought, I'll just cover him up just for privacy and respect. But to fold, it just seems a bit random. Normally, when you fold clothes, it's because you're putting them away to store. You don't just fold clothes and then leave them outside unless you just forget. Some people were saying that maybe when it mentioned about Jack heading on down to the area and coming across Noah, maybe Jack folded those shorts out of guilt, or somebody else did. Or the other claim was that, and I'll just go to Street View here whilst talking. The other claim was that if it was true that Noah was first wearing black shorts at the party and then after the incident at the ATV tipping over changed to beige shorts and then was murdered afterwards or died by an accident, then somehow taken to here, dumped, disposed of, whoever responsible for it all, or part of it at least, felt guilty enough to head back to the scene before anyone saw the body and basically replace the shorts or take the shorts away and then leave some white coloured shorts nearby folded. What the hell is that going to do? Is that a form of respect? No. I mean, if you came across someone who was cold, alone, homeless, you might give them a blanket, you might give them a jacket in certain situations. But what good would it do giving a dead body a blanket? It's not exactly going to keep it warm because it's dead. The person's dead. So I don't think, it's just not a normal thing to do really, to fold clothing or to replace it. And then that could be considered tampering with evidence as well, whether you feel guilty or not. Nevertheless, you see where it's laid out, okay? I've just put this marker, the black one, near to the body because it was near. Is this directly where the shorts were found? No. I just moved this marker lower down just so it didn't overlap with the other beacon points. But as for these two red ones, these are supposedly the exact spots. Okay? Granted, there might be a bit of inaccuracy. Okay, because when we did look at the photos, it did seem a little bit closer than what you see on here. But it's like roughly this area, at least. Now, from what I saw when we looked at that updated timeline, not the one today, but the one what we looked at yesterday, I know it does seem a bit in the wrong order, but the timeline of what I saw today, which I showed you, is what I came across as of today. That's all, right? So we might have done it in the reverse order, and some of you may already know, but I just wanted to let the others who didn't. But 6:05, which is much later on, considering at 5:30, that's when the body's found by a truck driver and reported to police. At 6:05, Jack shows up at the scene, right? Now, I can't remember at what point, whether it's at 6:05 or after, Jack mentioning to whoever from the last video that I did, Jack saying, Noah, he passed away around 4 a.m. in the morning. What? Around 4 a.m. in the morning? So you're telling me that Noah left the party at 3:30 a.m. and passed away at 4 a.m. So within a 30-minute period, you're saying that that's when Noah died. How would you know that? Does it take 30 minutes to walk from the party house to the train tracks? No, unless you walk in slow and you're having an argument with one another and everything's being slowed down, maybe. Is there enough time to be ambushed by anyone else along the way? I don't know. Because you think of the distance, the total distance from party house to the highway, all the way down to the actual point. Where's that? Roughly. Round it up, like 1.1 miles. Roughly 1.1 miles. It's weird. And why in that direction as well? First thing that comes to people's mind or something? Close that down. If you know the time of when someone died, then likely you were there to see it happen. So for Jack to say what he said, it makes it seem like he was there when he saw the final breath of Noah. You could argue and say that maybe Jack didn't see Jack shit. No pun intended there. Maybe Jack didn't see Noah get killed or get accidentally killed, but Jack got there shortly afterwards and then saw the after effects. But even if that was the case, within that 30-minute period from leaving the party to then ending up dying, in which that's when Jack saw the final breath, let's say, of Noah passing away, from 4 a.m. to 5:30 a.m. So what's that, like an hour and 30 minutes? So if Jack was present and near to Noah's body at around 4 a.m, it took 1 hour and 30 minutes for his body to be reported to the police by a stranger, a passerby, not even by Jack himself. It was 6:05 when Jack decided to head on down to the scene. So what the hell happened within that 1 hour, 30-minute period then of silence? Because if Jack means what he says, then why didn't Jack do anything earlier at that time around 4 a.m. when supposedly Noah passed away? Did Jack just quietly go back to the house? That's what the strangest thing is. And people could say, well, maybe it's not meant like that. Maybe Jack is getting confused himself. I don't think you get confused over stuff like that. And although I didn't want to bring it up because I did the video earlier, but I'm sure by now people would have either gone and checked that video out or still will. Besides Jack and his unusual comment made, the other unusual comment made was by the homeowner of this party house, which I believe must be one of the parents of the girlfriend, in which the girlfriend is their boyfriend at Jack, right? So one of the homeowners said supposedly in recent time that they were going on about people being invited to the party and then others tagging along who weren't invited nor welcomed, and the homeowner wasn't too pleased with that, but they weren't there at the time to see it unfold. In addition, at the end of a comment made from Facebook, the homeowner said, at the end of the day, if us parents are made out to be the evil ones, someone like me or someone like us, we would have done a better job. We would have actually disposed of Noah. But by the way, Noah deserved a lot better. That's roughly what the homeowner said. Why on earth would you say that? There is a lot of strange behaviour by a range of different people. Stories not adding up, contradictions made. If you came from the Dylan Rounds case and you had headaches then, you're screwed now, okay? You have migraines left, right and centre. You might as well get out the peas, the sweet corn and anything else you can find and basically put your head in it. Forget about burying your head in the sand. Bury your head in frozen peas. Because the amount of contradictions coming out and stories and unusual behaviour and unusual comments made by people of interest, or those who aren't a person of interest but then become it, such as this homeowner, is a lot of weird stuff going on, right? I said, I've only started hearing about this case just recently because I've been doing other stuff, I've been looking elsewhere, but for it to go from 2023 till now, that's quite some time. That's crazy. Was there anything else to highlight? I don't think so at this moment in time. But you get the idea of the distance, you get the rough example of some of the timelines, timestamps and the time difference between the events. Be sure to let me know what you think down below in the comments section. I think we'll leave it there for now. I hope you found the video interesting. Be sure to share it so more people see it. And always feel free to check out the links down below. Thanks for watching. Appreciate your patience. Goodbye. Good night for now.